Alright, hello. It's currently December, the time of summaries, and I figured, you know what, it would be kind of nice to summarize how the expansions that got released 2 years ago that we got to play with for a long, long time, how did they do? Were the cards from them fun? Were they not? And so on the stream, I, together with my Twitch chat, decided to make a tier list. And the results of it, you guys can see right here. So I'd like to walk you guys through a little bit on why the cards are in the tiers they are, what do the tiers mean, and yeah, how do I feel about these? So I kind of rated them based on their playability and the enjoyment that we got out of playing the cards as well as playing against the cards. And yeah, based on that, the cards are pulled into tiers. There was some more emphasis put on like the best time of the card. So, for example, Zarimi, being where it is, it's based on 2024 Zarimi when it was like actually really cool, not the 2025 Zarimi when he was lame. So stuff like that, right? And yeah, so we're kind of judging the card at its best based on in its playability and its fun. So, for example, card like Rambunctious Stuffy. I don't even know how to say that name. Stuffy. Anyway, this is an extremely fun card, and it was extremely enjoyable when the one meme deck that played it was around. But it was playable so little that like I can't justify putting it any higher than B. Right? So I would like to walk you guys through what I put in S. What why are some of these outlier cards in their tiers like Ziliax here? And what does the forgettable and actively harmful tier mean? And actually walk through the actively harmful ones too. All right, so let's get started. Let's get with S. So the first two cards in S, I think these two are such a core addition to the class at this point that we actually forgot that these cards came from the expansion. Safety Goggles and Red Card. I think these are two fantastically designed cards. The Safety Goggles feel so core to Warrior right now that like you couldn't even imagine that Warrior does not have access to a 0 mana gain 6 if they have no armor, right? Like it's just a card that's there. And I do love a good support card, and that's why kind of both of those cards are in there. Red card is kind of the same thing, where Demon Hunter does not have access to clearing a big minion. And this is not really clearing a big minion, it's just a temporary solution. But it's a temporary solution that might sometimes be sufficient, or sometimes not. Sometimes the 8/8 that they played on turn 4 just comes back on turn 6 after you red card it, and it's still a problem, and you still can deal with it. So yeah, that's kind of why these two are there. Now we have Sky Matter Aviana and Headless Horseman. Maybe Sky Matter Aviana first. This card was pretty quickly buffed to a 5 mana 5/5, and it might have not been the greatest card in its first year in being a standard, but in the second year, I mean this is just the most fun deck that people play. This is the one deck that people play for fun for the entire year. Like I think this deck reached like 12% play rate while it was like a 45% win rate deck, right? Like you don't see that. People enjoyed this deck so much throughout this year, the Aviana deck, where it just I think it just has to be up there. This is how you make meme cards, right? Just it's just powerful enough to the point where you play it, you enjoy playing it, and like you don't want to stop even despite maybe losing a tiny bit of ranks. But on the other hand, it's not competitive, so like you don't face it every game, so that you don't feel scammed by it either. It's just I think it's just in that perfect spot for the meme card, and that's why it is an S tier rating. The Headless Horseman. This card is a bit different. This is a card that anytime a DK list would change, this card would get slotted in and then it would get slotted out. Slotted in, slotted out. The voice lines are amazing on this card too. And it's just such a joy to play him. Just to do the ha 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 emote, which I totally can't do. Or the rhymes that it had. It's just so much about this card is so awesome. And it was always like just good enough to play it as like the 30th card in the deck and not feel too bad about it, even if it wasn't maybe perfectly optimal to play it in the deck. And yeah, it's just such an amazing flavor. It felt so good. The battle cry made it so that you don't feel as bad making your hero power better, and you get to discover some things at the very, very end of the game where both players are running out of resources to just give you that extra punch to finish off the opponent. Just such an amazing card. I think these four are probably like by far the best cards. I considered making like their own S plus tier for these four cards. I decided not to just because the gap is like not that big, but there definitely is a gap to the next cards. All right, so the next couple, Chia Drake and Bottomless Toy Chest, I think both kind of belong in the same category where these cards were so nice. Like they give such a nice feel to spell damage druid, where these were cards that like you would play like these were cards that would allow you to play without like the 70 damage combo or whatever, right? Like these were cards that would allow to play for playing spell damage druid without playing owl in it. Chia also had like fantastic decisions about when to take spell damage, when to draw a spell, when to hold the 1/1, when to play it to draw a card right now. It's just such an amazing card. And Bottomless Toy Chest, again, like it gave you that decision of do I want to actually click my Dollhouse? Do I want to play my Chia for spell damage so that I can get an extra copy of a card from this? Or do I not value the copy? Do I just play the Toy Chest? It's just such an amazing like ability to make decisions that both of these cards gave you. And they just made Concierge Druid and various spell damage druids throughout the 2024 year so much more enjoyable to play. And it's actually crazy. Especially in 2025 where Chia Drake didn't really see that much play. The spell damage druids I think became quite a bit more boring and yeah, they just didn't feel the same without Chia. Chia also has been buffed and nerfed at some point, buffed to a 3/5 then that nerfed back to a 2/4. Which kind of made the card like this card as a 3/5 was maybe a little too powerful. It was like difficult to strike a balance with this one. But like that moment where when the Chia was played as a 3/5 really really made me enjoy it and want me to put in S here. And I'm glad they messed around with this card because the card is really fun, really enjoyable to play. All right, the controversial one I think is next on the block. That is Painter's Virtue. I I know this deck could like might have been a little oppressive in lower ranks, but hear me out. It felt so good to just slam some big minions and play the lifesteal weapon that like slightly keeps you alive, then throw a bunch of charge damage at their face. It's just a lot of the games with Handbuff Paladin just kind of felt on the edge where you just have enough healing to not die, or maybe you don't have enough and you just barely die. Do you and that deck also had like a lot of tiny decisions where there was a lot of like magnetic minions and do you play the one now? Do you play the 1/1 now? Do you play it later? Do you save it for the buffs? Do you need tempo right now? There was so much detail going on that you could pay attention to and you could really master this deck that it made it actually really fun to play, despite, it being just me slam big minion, me win sometimes. And I really appreciated this deck for that, and this card was a centerpiece of that deck. So I think I have to kind of evaluate that this card through through the lens of this deck. It did fade out in 2025. It also got nerfed. It got the lifesteal taken away from it, but that is not the reason why the card is not being played right now. It is because there is basically no support for it in standard currently, or there hasn't been for the past year almost. And yeah, the card is just not as amazing, not as great. The card is just completely unplayable right now, in fact. But the memory of playing like the good hand buff paladin of charge minions with free. The plushie was never really free mana as far as I remember it. It was a very short period of time. But with powerful lifesteal of charge minions, with air guitarist even to extend your weapons durability, that just felt so great. And yeah, it was a super satisfying feeling to play that deck. So that's why this is on there. We also have Table Flip. Table Flip is a really cool removal. Like it encourages the Warlock to play in like a handlock style where you have a lot of cards in hand, which encourages having a lot of options. Um, and makes you tap in the early game, take the damage, play a little bit more on the edge. And it's just such a great card. It makes you think about hand space and all of that. It just, yeah, another very, very enjoyable card to play with. Bullhog, I know this might be controversial. This one was the centerpiece of a, like, there was like a Bullhog Death Rattle Demon Hunter where you'd like resurrect the Bullhog a bunch, and I think that deck was like a little frustrating to play against. But it's not really Bullhog's fault that the design team decided a year later to print a card that kind of breaks it. And the Bullhog did get appropriately nerfed after that. And until then, in 2024 especially, like the card has been fantastic fit to a lot of Demon Hunter decks. It gave you that a tiny bit of survivability that you wanted. It was kind of aggressive, kind of defensive. You would want to play like a tiny minion or a divine shield to play around it. It again gave you a lot of options, a lot of playability, and it just, yeah, it just felt so good to have this card as a part of the Demon Hunter class. And same goes kind of for Spirit of the Team, where this is so uniquely like embedded into the flavor of Demon Hunter, where like you kind of want to attack with your face. It felt so good in aggro Demon Hunter with like synergies with Battle Fiend and Silk Puppet Slither Spear. But also sometimes was maybe even playable in like the slower decks. Not really, I suppose. But yeah, it's just also activating the location later in the game, where from Perils of Paradise, the pirate location that refreshed every time you attacked with your face. It just there's such a it felt such a Demon Hunter card, you know? It's just so flavorful, so fitting. And I don't think there have been any complaints about Spirit of the Team being like super broken or whatever. Just a great support card, fantastic fit. Yeah, just great overall. We also have Wheel of Death. That card is very, very unique for sure. And it kind of enabled Control Warlock just by itself, right? It's just one of these cards where it's like, you put this in your deck, you put 29 cards that say survive, and you just try to, do something with that. And I think that concept was kind of cool to explore. It's just, and the archetype itself was quite fun to try out. And yeah, I've really enjoyed playing with Wheel, even though the wheel itself wouldn't really come down most of the games. Like you would usually win in some other way than wheel. But just enabling that archetype and making this like control warlock deck an option, it's just kind of why wheel is all the way up here. It felt like kind of a great design too. All right, we have a hunter card, Patchwork Pals. Patchwork Pals, it just incorporates the flavor of Animal Companion so well, right? It it just that's what it did, and it was like again one of these not too strong, not too weak. I don't think anyone, or barely anyone, complained about it. But it somehow found its way into decks, and it was just like kind of played in Aggro Hunter. It was played in like Zerg Hunter. It was played in Discover Hunter occasionally. There were some Egg Hunters that played this. It just kind of does that a little bit of everything, and it gives you that Hunter flavor really, really well. I think this card was really, really well done. And we also have. I'm gonna go over Gift Wrap Whelp first. This is just kind of how you do aggro minions, I think. It's a lot of power in play immediately, and then like a little bit of an effect on your hand too that usually doesn't do anything, but maybe it does something awesome. Maybe it buffs your Dragon Golem or whatever, right? And then it's kind of great. And it just felt really good to just play Gift Wrap Whelp on one, just every time. And it didn't feel that bad to play it later, which is kind of why it's in S. It just, yeah. I think this is just a perfect aggro minion. And Pop Up Book, this is just like a very flexible card that you could always use. If you could get value out of the taunts, it felt like it would feel really, really good too. I personally kind of hated that card because I played a lot of Zarimi Priest in 2024, and the Shaman, like a Nature Shaman, would pop up book my Gift Wrap Whelp, and then I would have to sink like 10 damage into the 0/1 taunts. And it just felt awful, and they would, in the meanwhile, have a Novice Zapper behind all of it, and they would AoE my board even more, or like use their spell damage to get over the breakpoints on my minions, and it was very frustrating. But the card was very powerful by itself. It made a lot of Shaman decks actually valid and playable and good. And thanks to that card, yeah, I think a lot of good for Shaman happened. So that's why it's here. And Baking Soda Volcano, it's not actually that good of a Hearthstone card. Like, it wasn't played that much. But I feel like it's just the ability for the opponent to play around it and for you to try to use it at the appropriate moment where the Overload one wouldn't actually block you from having an important turn. And that little mini game of Baking Soda Volcano, if you know that it's in the opponent's deck, uh, felt really, really good to do, to participate in. And if you could win that mini game, then you a lot of the time win the Hearthstone game. And I think just because of that, I think this card deserves an S tier, as well as, actually being played enough to show up here. So a lot of the A's are staples of the classes that felt like pretty good designs, but there was something about them where either they weren't good enough or maybe they were too much. Where like I have a tiny bit of a thing with those cards that annoyed me, and a lot of the community has like a tiny bit of this of those cards that annoyed you. And I think Time Wander Zarimi is like a good example of that, where it would have been S based on what it did in 2024, but 2025 Zarimi was kind of harmful to be in the game, and therefore it does not earn a spot in S. Sonia, kind of similarly, I think it overstayed in its welcome a little bit. There were a lot of amazing things done with Sonia, but a lot of the Sonia pirate stuff just kind of got old, and just wasn't as interesting. And I definitely have a reaction, and it's not a good one when I hear how long can you hold your breath coming while playing Hearthstone. It's just it has become a very frustrating card for me eventually at some point, and for many people too, and that's why I don't think it belongs in S, even though the card is kind of awesome by at what it does. Yeah. Whizbang also here, not quite the S that the original Whizbang was, not quite the hit, but I think it was still fun enough that, yeah, should make it an A. Scarab Keychain, a lot of the time fit in a lot of the decks. Single long body, again, another nice piece for a lot of these decks that, yeah, it's just a nice piece for a lot of hero power decks that could use the synergy, like hero, like the Druid decks, the hero power Druid with that you played in 2024 that stacked attack on the hero as well as imbued Druid later on. Yeah, tier B. I think there is a couple of notable cards here. Yeah, Ziliax Deluxe. So the reason Ziliax is in here is because I think the design of Ziliax kind of failed at the end of the day. I think people found Ziliax very tiring and just having the same card with like a very similar art to be in every deck, it just got boring and people didn't really want to see that. So yeah, it's just kind of this card got get very frustrating over time, and that's why it's lower rating. And similarly, like frustrating cards like Window Shopper, Sleet Skater, Alonius, Soundbox Scoundrel, all in here. Threads of Despair is also here just because the balance team didn't really ever find a good balance for this card. I think if it was released and left at 2 mana, I think it would have been an S tier card. I think it would have been a new Defile. But it being nerfed to 3 kind of deleted the card, and having released it at 1, it made people very frustrated with the card. And even when it's been at the 2 mana, which I think was the right spot for it, I think a lot of people found it still really frustrating, and that led to its further nerf. There is also Umpire's Grasp, which I think could have been a really cool card, but it had to pay for Window Shopper and mostly Macpharodon's sins, where playing the deck that just plays Umpire's Grasp, draws Window Shopper, and tries to hit Macpharodon. That deck was not a very fun experience to play against, and something out of the package has to have gotten nerfed, and it landed on Umpire's Grasp. Which is unfortunate. I think tutoring a specific demon could have been really cool throughout the 2 years, and I am very sad that we didn't get to play with that card. Yeah. A lot of the cards below here, like Hanbuff DK cards, they are here because their archetypes just weren't particularly playable. But all of the cards above this gray tier, that's down here, are the cards that are still positive designs that affected the game in a positive way at the end of the day, and I am glad that they came by. Then there is this forgettable tier, which is something that is my personal grudge with Blizzard's design philosophy, where there are just so many cards that has never ever seen play, like not even competitive play. They haven't seen play in meme decks, like unless except for maybe a couple of people that were cooking up their own decks at home. Like these cards just have not found their way into anything, and it's very disappointing to have such a large number of cards that are just complete pack fillers, and some of them being legendaries like Dr. Stitch and still like CCG, like Razad or Sealed, like Botface, where like if you're a casual player and if you open that card, it's just kind of disappointing. So I very much hope to at least not see any legendaries here in the future. And it would be nice for this tier to not have to exist, but unfortunately, I don't think that's the reality that we live in. And there's this last tier, actively harmful cards. So, these are the cards that I would have preferred not to be in the game, basically. And I think yeah. So the big example of that is, well, all of these. I think I'm gonna go for all of these then. Watercolor Artist. I think the card is maybe cool as an idea, but it was one of these cards where if you have it on free, then it's kind of awesome, and if you don't have it exactly on free, it's kind of terrible. And you can see that with Arcane Mage, you saw that with Big Spell Mage, with Tutoring Tsunami. It's just not that fun of an experience. A Mystery Egg is again one of these examples where if you have it on 4, it's great. If you don't have it, well, your deck is terrible because it's kind of fully built around the card. And Careless Crafter also falls into that category. That card would have been completely forgettable if they didn't release Wilted Shadow and ruined this card's piece. Then it suddenly saw a lot of play, and it was not very fun to play against or play with, really. It just kind of either had it on free and won the game, or you didn't, and your deck didn't function. Sucks. Observer of Mysteries was a card that kind of got its issues later when it started being played in Rogue a lot, in Cards Rogue. And it turns out that a card that casts random secrets is just not very fun to play against. It's just, yeah, secrets are just frustrating. And random secrets are even more frustrating because you don't get to narrow things down because it's just, you know, it's like you don't get to try to guess what's in the deck or whatever. It's just whatever. It's secrets from random anywhere, right? Very, very frustrating. Macpharodon, this is something that I've already talked about of Umpire's Grasp, where this card is not actually here because it was in the deck. This card was here because it kind of ruined the Window Shopper Umpire's Grasp thing. It just made the experience of playing against that deck extremely frustrating with constantly taking free AoE damage and not being able to stick a board. And I mean, I don't think this design is particularly fun to begin with. It's just like a dormant minion that AoEs your board that you can't do anything about. Like, why would we want that? I kind of wish this card did not happen. We also have Playhouse Giant. And I think a big thing about Playhouse Giant is we don't need a reward for people drawing cards. It's like if you're drawing cards, that should be a reward in itself, and also if you've drawn 20 cards this game, then you probably have then you probably managed to draw all of your cards that synergize with your 0 mana 8/8s, right? And therefore, the 0 mana 8/8 is broken. So it's kind of in that space where it's either super broken and doesn't let other people play the game, or it's just bad. And therefore, I'd much rather not have it be in the game. Chemical Spill, that's kind of an issue with the interaction of Tortola. But, I mean, just cheating out a big minion a lot ahead of schedule, it's just not that fun of a mechanic unless you jump through hoops to do that. Like, if you have to jump through hoops to do that, I'm okay with it. If it's just play a card that you can put in your deck, I'm not. And I wish Chemical Spill was never a card. Everything Must Go. I don't actually understand why I didn't put it in like the dead last. This is one of the worst cards that has ever been printed in Hearthstone. Like there was, at least in 2024, there was always a way to cheese this out. Like you didn't have to usually go through the effort of actually drawing 8 cards. Or I mean, you would draw 8 cards on the turn, but it was usually a funny way to cheat it out with Gaslight Gatekeeper or with Robocaller later on. Where the Gaslight Gatekeeper deck, it was especially frustrating because you just had like a 1 in 3 chance to have each of the EMG copies in your hand because you had like 24 cards in the deck and you would see 8 with your Gatekeeper. And that was extra frustrating. And then the same with the Robocaller thing. It was different because the Robocaller would tutor the Everything Must Go, but then also you would play the Everything Must Go on turn 3 in that deck, and that would just end games because you would play 2 of them on turn 3. And yeah, game's over. Because you just summon 4/4 drops and a 3/2 on turn 3. No deck in Hearthstone could deal with that at that time. And finally, King Plush. I mean, this deck has only been seen in the Mystery Egg deck, which was not particularly fun to play against, and more importantly, in Imbue Hunter, which might have been the most miserable experience in all of Hearthstone in the last 2 years. Yeah, uh, a minion that says ignore your board, deal 30 to your face on like turn 6. That just, yeah, just let's just not do that. And Blizzard rightfully nerfed Discard to Oblivion and nerfed a couple other cards just to make sure that that archetype is deleted forever. Yeah. All right. Well, that will conclude my tier list. I think I do have to say, vast majority of these designs are positive for the game, and I think Whizbang's Workshop was a fantastic expansion. I think the dev team did a great job designing those cards, especially those in S and A tiers. These are some phenomenal Hearthstone cards. I am very glad that those came to be. And well, a couple of mistakes always happen, right? That's just how it is. That is a price that you have to pay for doing something. Yeah, this is my big grudge, and this is something that I'm going to probably repeat throughout this recap or throughout these summaries. I will do the next one. Well, I'll do one for the Whizbang's Workshop mini set throughout the weekend, probably, and I'll do another one for Pearls in Paradise next Tuesday. So stay tuned for that. And for now, have a wonderful rest of your day, night, wherever you are. I'll catch you next time. Bye.